Primas y primos, bienvenidos al Nuevo Mundo. The following is for educational purposes only, and it's only in my humble opinion. So, I've been trying to learn how to do camera work. Like I said, if you look at some of my earlier TikToks, I talk about the magic of cinema because this is what this is. This is the ability to take sight and sound, compress it into a digital format, and then put it out into the public. I was watching another YouTuber, FD Signifier, and he was talking about how he had started putting out content, producing content years ago, but basically the advice that he had for anybody who wanted to into producing content was just to get out there and do it, right? Because you're going to learn by doing it. I mean, I can't afford to go to film school. I'm not a Steven Spielberg that's going to talk my way through getting into USC. I mean, that's a really interesting story, the Steven Spielberg story, or actually different stories that I've read about how Steven Spielberg actually like walked onto the lot and he was this young kid. I don't know how much of that is true and how much of that is myth, but name of the film was called 52577, and it's about a special effects director, I believe, who became a director. And there's a scene where he meets Steven Spielberg passing through the studio. And what's interesting about it is that they portrayed Spielberg in the film as being this genius. I mean, like, Spielberg knows all this stuff, and he's a very young director. And the difference is, when I was listening to FD Signifier, is that those schools give you an edge because they teach you the fundamentals. They give you the language. They probably share all the information about camera work, camera tricks, setting, blocking, setting up the. I mean, there's a whole lot that goes into filmmaking. But what FD Signifier was talking about was basically just do it. Become an expert by playing with the software. You know what I mean? By playing with the camera. My style is cinema verite. I don't know how to pronounce it in French, so I'm going to do it in Spanish as close as I can do it. Cinema verite. Anyway, what it means is truthful cinema. In other words, it's a documentary style filmmaking that uses very little trickery. There's really no trickery involved to it, right? They often refer to it as observational cinema or direct cinema because it's like a voiceover. You're hearing my voice, but you're seeing scenes. Sometimes you'll see me driving. Sometimes you'll see me filming just something in nature. Most of the times, what you're seeing is, my security camera. And so, basically, what it is I'm telling you a story. I'm telling you something that is, like I said, in my humble opinion. In this sense, there's no attempt to try to provoke you with grandiose music or fanciful shots. This is basically just a camera with a voiceover. When I'm moving, it's a little bit different. When I'm in a natural state, and if you see some of those TikToks or videos or pieces of filming, I'm actually just going off the stuff that I know. Like, I'm not referring to anything that I can Google or that I can do a term search on the computer. Whereas when I'm filming with my security camera, yeah, because I can stop and I can go research something to make sure. But a lot of times when I'm moving, the stuff that I'm talking about, I'm talking off the top of my head from memories that I have. In other words, things that I've learned over the years. So there's a difference between when I'm filming on the run as opposed to filming from the security camera perspective. And I have different ways to set the security camera up to be able to look outside. In my humble opinion, I'm here to do basically one main primary thing, and that is to impart information to you, the individual viewing the camera and or listening to the narration. Now, a lot of the stuff that I tell you, like I said, especially when I'm out and about, when I'm running and gunning, is basically stuff that I already have in my memory. Now, the stuff that I'm telling you online, when I'm doing it through the security camera, I try to use uh, Google to try to make sure that what I'm telling you is correct. But when I'm running and gunning, it's not that I'm being untruthful. I'm imparting information that I've gathered over the years. Sometimes it's not. I mean, it can be disputed, and even the stuff that's online can be disputed. Even when I'm working with the security camera, and even if I Google it or do a term search on it, I mean, it's still stuff that can be disputed. But the point is that I'm trying to impart information. That is the main goal of what I'm doing here on this particular channel. One of the content creators that I follow goes by the name of Evan the Bioethicist. And one of the things that I like about her is that she talks about disinformation, misinformation, and that she did her studies in this, especially in the medical field. The TikTok video she made, she's trying to tell you the difference between uh, propagandas. But the thing is, even what she's doing is propaganda. But what she's trying to do is she's trying to impart information, and she explains this. She's trying to impart facts to you and allowing you to decide for yourself. But it's still propaganda because she's still trying to sway you with information. Now, the thing that it happens to be is that her information is more based on research, whereas what a lot of people do on here is give their opinion. And I do the same thing. I give you my opinion, like I said, when I'm running and gunning, because I don't have access to the internet at that moment so that I can't fact check myself. But I am trying to impart facts to you. Even if, like I said, when I'm running a gun and when I was telling you the story, say about the mesquite. Now, that may be true or may not be true about the mesquite, but that's the information that was given to me, and that's the way that I remember it. Now, in that video that I made about the mesquite, I actually supposedly passed on a folktale that mesquite came here with cattle, that the Spanish brought it from Mexico, right? By the cows eating it. But there was an article that was written in 2003 by Burr Williams of the Sibley Nature Center in the Midland Reporter Telegram, in which he says that's just a story that archaeologists have dug up mesquite trees that were here during the 1100s here in Texas, in the native area where I'm from, and that the only reason that they didn't thrive was because we had a very different environment at that time, which the Native Americans had, which was with buffalo running around, and the buffalo would plow it under with their hooves, and then the prairie dogs would eat the saplings or the seedlings that would come up every time. They loved it, right? But then cattlemen came in the 1800s, white supremacists, colonizers, and started killing the prairie dogs. And within 50 years, most of the buffalo prairie, because there's no longer buffalo and there's no longer prairie dogs because white colonizers have killed both, mesquites begin to invade the landscape. Right? This is an idea that's very pervasive in ecology, that everything is localized, that everything exists in a bubble. And so he says, later on, he says, believing in this myth makes it easy to hate one's homeland. Many people who live in West Texas deride the Llano Estacado as flat, brown, dreary, and ugly. Mesquite becomes a symbol of that hate. And a lot of that hate is often focused on people of color, of the indigenous people that were here, the Mexicans that were here, because they started using the wood. I mean, the people evolved alongside of, you're killing off the buffalo, you're killing off the prairie, you're killing off the prairie dogs who had this under control, but we're going to use the wood because the wood burns well. In the people that hate it the most, you can go online and you can find a lot of hate writing about mesquite. And a lot of times, for some reason, it's colonizers. So this is kind of the stuff that I'm talking about, the difference between the running and gunning videos, which I use the myth, to something where you can actually go start looking up information when you're making it on the cameras here. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.